And so my role, again, it's kind of still the same on that kind of account executive role. Looking for new business opportunities, building their relationship with our current customers. That's kind of like the ultimate thing here. So that's where kind of how I, since I came to Cleveland in '94, I've been here ever since, and I have no regret about it.
So how did you get into sales? Was that something that you just have a natural affinity to build relationships and work in a sales kind of role, or did you after school or before school or during school take some classes in sales? How did you actually end up in this, business development kind of sales? How did you build that knowledge base?
Yeah, no, great question. So I did take two courses of sales, but I don't remember which ones were they at Cleveland State. But it kind of, I mean, it's both. I would say I built that kind of that experience through working at different agencies, and I was more of that project management role, pretty much helping customers understand their needs, what they're looking for, and then kind of providing with that solutions, and then kind of pass that on to my team, and then they're the ones that actually execute it and get it done for the client. So but then when I moved on and kind of started our own company, kind of, all right, well, someone needs to make those sales, right? So a lot of it, to do is like it's, building those relationships because you don't know. I mean, Cleveland is it is small. I mean, it's like who and and there's a lot of networking, opportunities. But I've also taken some classes, some different classes that I, some, it could be a day class, could be a week kind of courses and so forth. So I've done, quite a few of those that help out. I mean, they're all, I mean, we all read so many books about sales and so forth, and it's just like, you just, I think they all have different ways of doing things, but at the end, it all comes down to the same thing, right? And it's like you take pieces from here and what works best. Because I would say, there are things that, depending on what company, what field you're in, might work slightly different than what I'm in. So, I think it's been helpful. And I've had a lot of leaders, some companies I've worked for some ex-bosses and stuff, and I still talk to them. I still reach out to them, even some ex, Cleveland State, alumni, and I just, kind of get ideas and thoughts, and even networking and how do you do this, how do you get this done, and honestly, everyone's helpful. I mean, because they all want to see us, succeed. So so it's been kind of all the way around.
Absolutely. I think Cleveland State's a great little family. You can always kind of go back and tap that well, of resources. So as it relates to your sales experience with 42 Connect or with some of the other positions you were in, tell us about, the story, your biggest fish, your biggest sale, how, what about it are you proud of? And then on the other side of that, the sale that got away, and what did that teach you?
Right. Um, the biggest fish, I don't have one, but I think there's plenty of them, and they're all kind of the same. It's the one. It's like the one you work on for a while. It's been sitting in your pipeline, and it's just kind of it's taking forever. And those are my favorite. It's just because I don't give up on them. Neither does my sales team. It's just like, hey, let's work on this. Let's find different ways of how to get them to kind of let's close this deal. And usually they're more of those big clients that you kind of going after. They're not going to make a decision overnight. It's just it takes a process. There's a lot of people that they got to go through, get it approved, and so forth. So with that, it's just like being patient at the same time persistent, right? But you have to be careful how you're being persistent. So it's a lot of times, we're sending emails. It could be some educational emails and so forth about that specific service they're looking at help from us. So kind of show them that, hey, we have the authority. We understand this field really well. We understand your company. We understand your clients, who it is. So those are my favorites, just because it's just like, you've worked and worked and worked with them. And then, honestly, sometimes it takes a year and a half. And then there's ones that, you can close in a week and 2 weeks, and they're still great clients. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I mean, they're all clients. We all treat them the same equal, no matter who it is. But the ones that just take long are kind of like I would say they're always my big fish. Is just because it's just, I think once you close it, you feel like, wow, it took, 12 months and so forth just to get it. So it's just, I feel like it's a great win.
Yeah, all that hard work and effort paid off. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
great.
for sure. As far as your kind of fault, your second question, everyone, there isn't one, again, there's not one specific one that I say, oh, they got away. There's quite a few that got away, but and you learn from those, right? So it's just like there's a few that we've lost, and you're like, okay, so what do we do wrong, and how can we learn from this and move on? So whoa, I was like,
Is that, I think I might have accidentally muted you. Are you there? You need to
all right,
unmute
can you
yourself.
hear me?
There you go. Sorry. I don't know
All
what
right, no,
that
it's all right. So yeah, no, that's fine. So those ones, we learn from, because a lot of times, the ones we don't win, the ones we don't get, we do have like some sort of a follow-up email or a question, or hey, what do we do wrong? What did the other agency do better? Is there anything we can improve on? And I would say, 7 out of 10 times they do actually reply back and say, well, you guys were this, or your price was high, or certain things like this. I mean, we never negotiate on pricing, and our pricing is what our pricing is. But if there's something that we failed at presentation, or did not address their concerns or what their goals are, so then we go back and make sure that this doesn't happen again and move on. So from every single one that we don't close, or goes away from us, I think we learn from it. So I think it's helpful. I mean, as you know, and we all do mistakes in life, right? I mean, you can't get through life without mistakes, and we all learn from it.
absolutely. So tell us a little bit about 42 Connect. So how long have you guys been in business, and what are some of the strategies your firm uses to generate leads, and how do you go about, identifying them, qualifying them, territory, things like that?
Yeah, no, that's great. So like I said, we've been in business for close to 18 years. So we have a sales process that we have. So I have here John Regan, that helps with kind of more of that, finding the suspects and prospecting. So our sales process is kind of five steps, and we have suspects, prospects, interested, proposal phase, and then won or lost. All right. So as a company, you're trying to identify who your target marketing is, and then kind of putting together, okay, so this is our target market. This is where we're going after. Okay, these are manufacturing company. Revenue is X, whatever it is. How many employees we need? They need to have 50 plus employees. So once you identify those, then from then on, you can kind of start finding those lists, right? So there are so many services out there, for example, Zoom info and so forth, where you can buy, leads. So you can find those, break them down, filter them, get them, and then from then on, we kind of put them into suspects. Suspects is pretty much they don't know who we are, and we've never got in touch with them. So we go through those suspects and trying to see, okay, here are the suspects we have. We have 100 suspects today. Let's see if we have some sort of a connection between, on LinkedIn or so forth. So if we have a connection on LinkedIn, then we try to, hey, can you do an introduction to them? So we write a little kind of small description. We send it, I'll send it to you, Tony, to be like, hey, James, can you send that little thing and just kind of add your message to it and do a little introduction and so forth. So there's different ways. So then once we kind of move them into that prospect, they're kind of like still at that 25%. They're still, and then we do outreach. So, we make sales calls, kind of leave, we know well, we start with an email marketing. I would say we kind of grab a list and shoot them a whole email, and then follow up with some calls. And then we kind of have that nurturing kind of follow-up emails that kind of go out automatically and so forth. Once we start getting them, moving them into interested, so they're interested, so that's at 50%. Now you're like, all right, so there's movement there, they're at that 50% line. And then from then on, we kind of get on that one-on-one call, kind of see what their kind of identify what their pain points is. It's so important to identify their pain points and start talking about them. And because once they kind of feel like, oh yeah, those are my pain points I need help with, and then we're providing some sort of, I mean, we don't give everything out, we just kind of maybe give them a little solution, little hints of things how we can help, so they get them more interested. And then if we once we qualify them, and you kind of throw a dollar amount out there, so they know, okay, this is what will cost me, right? Just to, you got to qualify them, because you don't want to take them to the next step, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, that's too much, or whatever it is. So once we kind of go through our qualification list, and then move them into that proposal phase, I feel like when they get to that proposal phase, we are like, I would say about 90% sure they're going to move with us, right? So, and then from then on, then you have that won or lost, right? Did we win this? Did we lose this? And hopefully, we win more than we lose. So that's kind of like that process. Um, and once we, win them and so forth, then kind of, then that gets passed on to our team. Usually me, whoever kind of did that sale, usually is still involved kind of the first few months, as far as onboarding, kind of going through that discovery meeting with them, just because that's the familiar face that they've trusted and went through that whole sales process, and like, okay, I signed because Hany made me feel comfortable. So you're still around there, but then you pass it on to your team, your project managers, and so forth, and then they take it on from there. But then it's important, like very, very important, is like you got to continuously be in touch with them, right? Just say, hey, how things are going? Is there things we can do better? Is there things, and just to make sure your team is doing a good job. If something falls, because I think like they still have that trust with you, and by you making the follow up calls and stuff, just like when you buy a new car or something, you hope they'll call, hey, how's the car going? You guys enjoying it and so forth. So and it makes them feel good. So, and the reason is like kind of doing that follow up and all this stuff is just, you never know who they know, somebody else in another company or a neighbor or something that kind of is looking for same, our services, right? So, if they can do, kind of do a referral, or kind of introduce us, I think it's going to be helpful. So that's kind
How
of like in a nutshell.
how has your process changed in this kind of new environment we live in with COVID?
Yeah. It's been tough. I love talking to people. I can, anybody, everybody that's right now on this. How many are you? 58, 60 people on this participating today. I just love to talking to people. And to me, not being out, being stuck, I mean, we are in the office, not all of us. I mean, like I'm in like 3 times a week or so forth, but not being able to be in front of somebody it's tough, right? But I think all of us understand what we're going through, this kind of whole COVID situation, and accepting the fact that we got to do this through, Zoom or Google Meet or whatever kind of, Microsoft team and so forth. So it's been a little bit of challenging, but I think we all adapted to it. And, even us working from home and stuff, we all adapted to this kind of new kind of work, environment that we're in. So, I mean, the only thing is just like there isn't that face-to-face meeting. That's the kind of the only thing, especially at the beginning, that when you're sitting there, you kind of give that handshake instead of just a virtual yes or a virtual no. I mean, there's that thing that the handshake is like, we all, how important is that handshake, right? And but I think we're adopting, and it's going well. I mean, we saw, earlier in 2020, almost a year ago, I would say about March, April, May, there were some difficulties because everybody didn't know where they're going and stuff. But, we adopted to it, and we kind of changed our, even like going after them and trying to, what are the new pain points, because there's definitely new pain points that appear, right? And how can we keep them afloat and in their business and what's going on, and keep them, going. So we identified those as fast as possible we can, and and that's kind of, we kind of continue with that same sales process.
What kind of technology do you guys use to kind of follow your sales pipeline?
Yeah, so no, that's a great question. So we use Active Campaign, and it's been great. Just kind of, we broke it down kind of similar to that sales process. So whoever made that contact and so forth, I can go in there at any time myself, John, whoever it is, can go in there and just see, hey, where's that person in that sales process, what's that dollar amount, what's that service they're looking for, why have they not moved from, from prospect to interest and so forth, is there anything I can do and so forth. So active campaign has been like the one, and then there's so many tools that we use, as far as, like I've mentioned, gosh, my brain, it's similar to Zoom Info, where we get all the data and the leads and so forth. Then we use Vidyard, VID yard is, it's pretty cool. It's just you create these, 30-second, 60-second videos, and you can kind of embed them in your email and send it to them. So you get that personal touch, right? Because you can't be in front of them, but at least when they open that email, hey, there's a little video kind of going on, and it's like, you come up, and then, it's just gonna say, hi, this is Hany, and just kind of get that little personal touch, because today is like video is so important, right? And people don't read anymore. They just want to see a video. I mean, everybody's on social, on, I don't know what's there right now, Snap and TikTok and so forth. So sending those out has been great. So that video has been, I think, helpful as well too.
Yeah, that kind of goes right into my next question about that, the importance of building a relationship. And, you talked about, suspect, which I think is an interesting word, that you use at that level, because you don't even know who they are, but you suspect they might be a good customer. I really enjoy that term. But when you get them into, the prospect, what are some steps that you and your team use to kind of, build that relationship? Because it's all about, personal selling and that personal relationship. What are some techniques or, special tips and tricks that you guys do to kind of get them on the hook, keep them on the hook, again, to build that trust? Because you did say trust is such a fundamental part of that relationship.
Right. So when they're at suspect, like I've said, they're still at that 25%, like, hey, there is some, here we go, there's some interest. They are the right person. And then we have some sort of a connection with them, right? So if you try to build that trust, is like, okay, how do you communicate to them that I know so and so, and I've done this for this person, right? Or we've worked with a company similar to yours, and here's a case study that I can provide you, and this is what we did for them. I think, because what we do is we do an audit. When I say an audit, is like, there are tools out there where I can go to their website, and I can see, how their website is performing. I can have one of my designers or whatever look at the website and say, hey, there are things that you can, that they need help with as far as call to action. So, we're a digital marketing agency. We're sending leads to the website. When they come to the website, all of a sudden, like, how do I contact somebody, right? There isn't a phone number easily, or there isn't a contact us page and so forth. So we kind of do this whole audit, and then we slowly kind of like, kind of almost like identify those pain points, and like slowly drip campaign to them, and like, make them feel like, oh God, they do know my problems. And so if their website speed is slow, hey, it's taking about 8.2 seconds for the website to load. What that does that mean? You're wasting money and running ads and so forth. So you're trying to identify things with them, like, even as finding them on social media, and maybe maybe their kids play soccer and so forth. So, those are all things that you can find, and then if you identify those things, you kind of talk about it, right? And because they love their kids, they love the soccer and so forth. So it's just kind of one of those things. There's so many different ways, and every single one of them is different than another.
All right, well, I only have two other questions for you, and then we're going to open it up for 58 people to ask you questions. So what are some things that your sales team does in regards to managing the sales team? Do you guys have like Monday motivational, virtual meetings to line up, your week? How do you kind of go about running your sales office?
Yeah, so we run our company under EOS. So if you read the book Traction, so it's Entrepreneurial Operating System. So we run it under that. So we have what we call it, our sales weekly L10 meeting. So we just we go through the whole process as far as like, so we have scorecard. So how many contacts have you reached? How many emails have you sent out? How many new business meetings have you had this week? So we all hold ourselves accountable, right? How many proposals have you sent out and so forth? So those are scorecard things. And then also within there we have goals. What are our quarterly goals in order to hit numbers? As a company, we have numbers we got to hit. So what we do is we have those weekly meetings, and then we kind of go through it all. And it doesn't change every week. It's the same thing. It starts with, hey, tell me something personal about you that you did this week, like something good this weekend that you did, and as far as business wise and personal wise. And then we go through the scorecard, we go through the rocks, and then from then on we start looking at those prospects that are there. That, okay, hey, what's going on this week, and how can I help you with specific things? Oh, you know what, this specific person, I think I know somebody that actually works there. Here we go, I'm going to send that out to them. So it's just it's a weekly thing, and it's been helpful. Once, because we started running our company under EOS about 2.5 years ago, and ever since, I think it's just been the best thing we've ever done. So
That's beautiful. That's great. And so last question. So what are some of your mantras, some of your sayings, some of your influences in your own personal life, things that you say to keep yourself motivated, or that your team uses to,
I mean, I don't have like one of those sayings, that you read, and I read them and I'm like, yeah, they're great and stuff. But I think it's something I learned from my dad, and it's just like, I mean, and I'll bring this up, and I know it's just, give me 1 second. So and the reason I'm going to bring this up is my niece. Unfortunately, I lost my niece last week to a tragic car accident. She was only 19 years old. Um, and she's the one person that I can say is just like, what I try to do is the same thing, is live life to the fullest, right? And I've always tried, and making sure that everybody around me has a smile. I put a smile on everybody as best as I can. And honestly, since this tragic thing that happened last week, and just kind of meeting her friends and so forth, it's just kind of like seeing how she lived, and she put a smile on everyone's face, and that's kind of like something that I want to continue doing, right? And kind of that's how I live life, right? And do work, and everybody that works in my company, I want to make sure the same thing. And even people that I've never met before, right? And it's just, and kind of right now, honestly, it's just what my niece did, and God bless her, and I just want to continue that same thing with her. So
yeah, I'm
just
sorry for your loss. I mean, I got to meet you with Jim Kendrick's Coffee with the Closer, and I definitely will say that you do have this energy, this positive energy around you. So you are doing well with that, kind of giving off those good positive vibes. And we do have a question here in the chat. And those of you, if you have any questions, it's now time for questions. Feel free to type them in the chat, or you can raise your hand using the participant window, and Hany will definitely answer your questions. So this is from Jim Kendrick, of all people. He says, is SEO still king in marketing and sales? And how do you see what your company does change over the next 1 to 3 years? It's a great question.
Thank you. Hey, Jim, how are you? No, so yeah, SEO is king. I definitely, as and the thing is, people are still learning about it, right? What is SEO and so forth. So, creating that content and continuously, because you have the option of, you got paid search, you got SEO, but with SEO, you become that authority in that whatever specific field it is. And as some of you I know, this we're talking sales here, but SEO is a process. It's not a a 2 month thing. It's a whole continuous process from month to month, and how to improve your ranking, page ranking, the services that you're working on, creating that content that's going to make you the authority in that specific service industry and so forth. So yeah, absolutely, it's definitely king.
Awesome. Okay, we have another question here from Marty. He says, how do you go from startup to where you are now? And how do you ensure your future growth down the road?
Yeah, there's starting a company is not easy. We're we were self-funded, right? So we didn't have anybody um that, you know, that kind of, I mean, we didn't take any loans or anything. Everything was self-funded. You know, when we started the company, you know, my business partner, I believe he already had kids, and I just got married, and you know, it was like stressful at the beginning. Like, what do we do? How do we get this done? You know, so we already built some clients from previous work and so forth, and you know, we worked. I even valeted cars at the time in Sugar and Falls. So you know, from one work, I just ran down to and parked cars, and so did Brian as well too. And those are things you reflect back. You're like, wow, you know, we did all this stuff. But you know, you know, I mean, Marty, I think is if you believe in that specific, you know, if you want to start a company, I think there are a lot of mentors. You know, I mean, myself as well too. I'm always around that can help you, kind of guide you, and let you know, you know, things that you should do, you shouldn't do. And so you know, I mean, that's like the best advice I can give. You know, I think if you the entrepreneurship, I mean, I think is great. There are risks, definitely, you know, but you definitely have to see that growth too. You got to believe in that growth and have a plan. Have a plan. This is what I'm going to do. I believe I'm going to do this specifically. I mean, anything you do in life, you have to have a plan, right? I want to get married in 3 years. I want to have this. I want to have a house. I want to have a car. I want to go on vacation and so forth. Same thing with the business. You just have to have that and trust it, right? But then also, you got to know that because we all learned from COVID, right? That things gonna come up and you have to, you know, understand that you might have to switch and change gears totally and go to different direction, right? And just to kind of stay afloat and move on. So yeah, that's kind of it.
All right, I'm going to unmute Imani here. She has her hand raised. And we have quite a few questions in the pipe. So keep them coming. But go ahead, Imani, you are unmuted. Go, feel free to ask your question.
Hi, I was gonna write in the chat, but my chat feature isn't working on my iPad, so I'm just gonna ask, what is the difference to you between like marketing and sales? And also, do you have any internships open with your company?
Good question.
Nice to meet you, Imani. No, so marketing and sales, yeah, they're different, you know, but they work together, right? So, you know, in our office, you know, so once we kind of create those, understand who our target market and everything, it's not just about, you know, picking up that phone and sending that email out. Is, you know, how do we find them differently, right? Because today we can target them on Facebook, we can target them on, you know, all these different means, right, on LinkedIn and so forth. So our marketing team works with the sales team together, hand in hand, because, you know, there's so many ways we can reach out to them. But if we can reach out to them through different ways, as far as, you know, social media, and so forth, I think it's helpful. So they do work together, but at the same time, you know, if you look at marketing as in a company, you know, it could be separate. You know, marketing just trying to market your company and trying to increase your revenue and so forth, and sales is just trying to sell those specific services and so far. But you know, a lot of times you have to have them kind of crisscross each other, understand what each one is doing, in order to kind of hit those goals for the company. As far as internship sales right now, we don't have any. We filled that position for the summer. Um, if there's anything, we'll have it up on LinkedIn or ZipRecruiter, even on our website. I don't know if our website has been updated as far as that position goes, but yeah, just keep checking, Imani, and you know, hopefully there might be something that's opens up.
All right, next question. This is from Osama. He says, how do you break the ice in a sales meeting?
Great question. As I mentioned, I don't know. I just I find it easy. I guess it just comes naturally, right? It's just I find you know, I find a thing like, you know, when I walk into a room or something, I know, you know, I just meet them for the first time. There's something I just identify so quickly, and they're just immediately trying to break the ice, right? A lot of times, you know, if I'm doing a presentation or something, I do use my multilingual kind of as a excuse in a way. So you know, I've mentioned to them, hey, I do speak Croatian, I speak Arabic, and a little bit of English. so they'll like look at me and they start laughing, so I feel like that works a lot. So I'm going to keep using it. Usama, you can use it as well too. It's just because they find it as a, humorous because like, he does, I mean, I believe I speak okay English, but it is my third language, but it's there.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to unmute Andrew here. He has his hand up. We still have more questions too, just so you know.
All right.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Andrew. I actually graduated back in December. I got the sales certificate. I went through the sales school and everything. Great stuff. If you guys are thinking about doing sales, definitely do that, because if you take Paul Gordon's class, you're going to love him. He's awesome. But I did have a question. So I've been doing financial planning for the last about 2 years, and me and my business partner, Brian Boucher, who's been in the business for about 18 years, we do a lot of cases together, working with a lot of business owners. I actually just opened a case with a startup out in Seattle that's doing pretty successful in the pet industry. But what I've found is when I'm calling on these people, obviously they don't know how old I am when I'm calling, but just the mental game of, hey, how are they going to be receptive to me? So is there any tips or things that you can think of when it comes to someone in my industry thinking, hey, when I call someone in your position, how can I be relevant fast, or even make it so that they'll give me the time of day to at least have a conversation?
No, it's a great question, because we had that same fear of like when we call on larger size companies, right? And we are a small agency, right? I mean, when we used to call and we were like 2 people and we were 4 people, and they're, you're looking at these large companies, they immediately like, how many are you, how many offices you have, and so forth. I think it goes back to, again, you have to make sure they understand like you're the authority in that specific field, right? So you have to kind of identify their issues or what they're looking for. But it's so important. I would not have that thought like, hey, I am young and so forth. I think that should be, there are unfortunately people that are looking like, why would I want to work with you? You're a young person, how much experience do you have, and so forth. But I think if you have some case studies that you can immediately put in front and so forth, kind of show them, hey, I do have experience, I have the knowledge, my partner has been doing it for so many years. But never go in there, have that thought in your brain, it's just because then they might ask a question and you might kind of veer a different way, like, oh God, here we go again, they're looking at my age and so forth. So I would not, I think, I've had that fear. And honestly, I was just always honest with who we are. I said, hey, yeah, there's only 4 of us here, but you know what? We've worked with Moen and we've done this and this and this because we can get the work done, So you just kind of have to prove yourself that, hey, I can get that work done because I've done it before and I'm sure I can do it for you too. So.
The next, I'm actually going to skip one and come back. This is from Benjamin Sulka and kind of goes along with what you just said. It says, what strategies do you use to increase your domain authority? In essence, how do you keep up? I mean, marketing is always this evolving and changing thing right now. How do you keep up with everything?
Yeah, we sometimes get busy with our work, right? Just kind of with our clients' work and get it stuff. And sometimes we're behind on kind of making sure we are, kind of putting that content out there. But, I think we've been doing great, creating some new content about specific services that we provide. It's more of content that would help them, like companies would look at it and start reading and be like, oh yeah, this is what SEO is, and these are the like 5 steps that I should take in order to improve my SEO ranking and so forth. So always putting that content out there, and again, them kind of feeling that you're the authority in that field, right? And when they're seeing that content, because we use that same content to send out emails, right? Drip campaigns and so forth and stuff. So again, but we're also going online and reading different things and new trends and and watching some videos or so those are things that are always important. And then we take it and kind of like, how do we recreate this content and make it useful for our, even though let's say they're not even our client yet, right? So they can still look at it and stuff, and there are some steps they can take and do it on their own, but then they might reach to that point and they grow and they're like, we don't have that capability to do it in-house, and we're looking for someone else. And like, hey, 42 Connect gave us those 5 steps and it helped us. Why don't we go back to them and see if they can actually get us even, ranking higher and so forth.
Okay, so you mentioned an app that you use to embed these little snippet videos in your email. Is it possible you can get me that information? And I
Yeah,
can send it out?
it's Vidyard, Vidyard.
Vidyard.
Yeah.
Got it. I'll send out a chat to everyone with it.
There's
Just
another one that I like, but I just I forgot its name. But this one has been working great. So, and they have a free option. The only thing is, I don't believe you can brand it into your company, so it'll have the company's name and so forth. But it's great. It's so easy. It has a browser plugin for Chrome, so you can easily just click on it, create that video. You can do a screencast. So, for example, Andrew was talking about financials and stuff. So you can do a screencast where your little face will be on the bottom left corner, and you have the screen. And you kind of walk him through the presentation and stuff. So, because a lot of times you don't get all the decision makers on that specific call, and that's important to everybody. You got to do your best to get the decision makers right on that kind of like that proposal, because if you're just talking to someone and they're not the decision maker, your message might not get back to the decision maker the same way that it should be given. So I always recommend making sure that decision maker is there. When you come to that proposal phase, you want them to be there. You want to present it to them. You don't want to just email it to them, say, here it is, look at it. You want to go through that proposal, because you're going to see their reaction when they start looking through it, looking at the service, looking at the numbers and so forth.
okay, we have quite a few other questions, so we'll get through them here. So this again is from Mr. Kandra. He says, for a person entering the sales field, any specific B2C or B2B industries or fields you might recommend for growth?
We've kind of looked at the manufacturing industry. It's been the last 3 years has been had a high growth in it. A lot of the manufacturing industry, you have like more of like what's the word, old school mentality. They've been in business forever, right? And they haven't transitioned to this new, we're in 2021, and their competition is kind of on that same level. So we've noticed that the manufacturing side has been very, very, I would say it's been going really well. It's just because I would say, ownership has changed, has passed on to younger generations. So, and they've noticed like, hey, we're way behind our competition. We need help with digital marketing, and okay, we need to, look into hiring, redoing our website, running some campaigns and so forth, so we can compete, because we realize our competition is way behind as well too, and we can kind of there. So that's been kind of the one industry I would say it's been, really good.
Okay, this is from faculty, Dr. Leah Shell Barber. It's a good question. It says, are there any podcasts or books, and you did mention Traction as one book, that you would recommend for professional development in marketing and sales?
Yeah, there are a few. I'm trying to think. There was one I was just listening to. I'm going to look at my phone, but as in a second here. But I've been, the ones that I'm, like The Art of Selling, Psychology of Selling as well, to those two that I kind of felt like it was, pretty good podcast books that I kind of went through. Sorry, I can't even find my podcast app.
Take
Put
your
my glasses on, guys. Hey, I'm getting old here. Yeah, go ahead. I'm listening.
No, you're
I'll
good.
find it.
And when you're ready, just let me know. One of our next questions, Marta, she actually asked two. She wanted to know, how large is your company, and do you happen to have any positions open?
So right now we're, company size, where there's 10 of us in our company. We do have an SEO position. Our sales, we actually filled that position. not to say, you know, we still have it open out there. You know, there's always, at times we leave those positions open because, you know, we always interview, we always want to talk to other candidates and out there, because you never know in the, in 6 months from now or something, we want to add another person and so forth. So but currently we do have, it's just an SEO specialist position that's open.
Okay, this is from Yana. How do you come up with your price points for clients? I know many people struggle with finding prices to charge their clients when they are starting off. Do you believe it is all based on your experience level, or are there other elements that may play a role in determining, again, what price point you might put on a certain service?
No, who is this? Who asked that
This
question? Sorry.
is Yana. Not sure if I
Yeah.
said it correct.
Yeah, no. Okay. Yeah. So with us, it's a lot about experience, right? Because I've worked at other agency and I saw how the pricing works too. But you got to look at, that specific service or whatever you're trying to provide in order, and then trying to identify, okay, this, it will take me, certain hours, right? So you maybe price yourself at $100 an hour, for example, right? And it might need 3 members to actually, get that done. You might need a project manager, a designer, and a developer to get that stat. So, you kind of have to talk to the developer, understanding, hey, how long will this specific task will take you? It'll take me 3 days. Designer, you can identify maybe about 4 to 6 hours, and then project manager. At the same time, you got to remember who that customer is, because sometimes you get some customers that require a little more attention. So that means it's going to require more project management, more time. So, and you learn that from experience as you go. As far as like, because that's more kind of project based, I would say. But as far as retainer business, the SEO, the paid search, we have a process. We have a proven process that we run our company through, not the sales process, but our marketing process. And we know what it takes to do monthly SEO, to run, paid campaigns and so forth. So we identified that number, and then based on that, we're like, all right, here we go. This is our pricing. This is what we've done. We've have, whatever, how many clients we've done it. We know we're pretty much right there with our hours, and that's kind of how do we put that pricing structure. But usually with the project based ones, honestly, it's just like right now with so much experience, it's kind of that feel like, hey, this is what it is, and I can throw a number right away in the middle of the meeting. Hey, what do where do you think we fall? I mean, you fall between here and here. That's what I see you'll be at. And honestly, usually it's a lot of times it's true. But then also you got to always make sure you track your hours, right? It's so important to track your hours, because as you track your hours and you go, and if you're a startup, the reason is, if you start going over hours, so then you start identifying, okay, how do I, what do I need to do to, come under budget? Or do I need to increase my pricing? Do I need to cut this and this? Is there something I can, help out there? So just kind of that kind of whole process.
Okay, 2 more questions, and then we'll talk about the sales center. So this is from Nicole. She says, when a sales pitch goes bad and the client starts to get upset for one reason or another, how do you try to turn it around?
So when a sales pitch goes bad, there's different ways. I would say you have to see if this client is the actual good fit for your company, right? You do not want to take on every single client. I mean, we all have, as anybody that started, you're like, hey, I want to take this guy, I want to take this one, anybody, right? Just because you want to grow your company and move on. But you have to, because there are times you're in a whatever stage of the sales process and you immediately say, this is not going to work. Like, we don't have it's not a good fit. And you have to be honest to yourself as well too, because, you have employees here too. And if you want to bring in someone that's going to cause a problem within the company, because, it's just, you got to identify that. But I just can't think of one that where it I mean, there's a lot that went bad, trust me. But if it went bad, it's just because we're not a right fit. But if it went bad because it's something on our end, or, maybe we were, there are times we maybe deliver the proposal a day late, unfortunately. I mean, I'll admit there are those sometimes that come up this way, but then you try to work some magic. But a lot of times you might have maybe just lost that trust already right there. But it's so important. You have to write down what makes a perfect client for your company, is because if you bring in the wrong client, and you'll know who they are, right? You will just know, and because it's gonna cause a lot of issues, and you're gonna put in so much time, so much efforts to please them and so forth. So just make sure they're the right fit both ways, and you have to tell them too. Hey, I just want to make sure we're the right fit. I might not be the right fit, and they have to identify that too, because they're gonna ask the same questions. You're gonna ask the questions, and see if that works.
All right, so we have one last question from Andrew before we talk about the sales center. And Andrew is not a paid spokesperson for the sales certificate, but we do appreciate his glowing comments about it. So Andrew, if you can definitely stick around, and I'd really appreciate your help with that at the end, if anyone has any questions about the certificate. But go ahead and ask the final question.
I'm definitely not bashful to talk, but I wanted to input when you were talking about books, but I couldn't unmute myself. So this kind of after the fact, but have you ever read the book Executive Toughness?
No.
You should definitely look it up. It's a really good book, especially for business owners. It'll help with the mental game of everything, because I know that, in sales and any type of business, mental is everything. Like, you can probably do everything, but your brain will mess you up most of the time. But that was my one question is there anything that you've read or anything that you do on a daily basis that like helps your mental toughness to like just be able to get through the day, like after a loss when it comes to a client, or just help you get back on track mentally? Because I feel like I have trouble with that.
Yeah. So it's a great question. I guess I'm just built maybe this way. Like there's a lot of things comes through the day. I mean, and it's not just work. It comes from here, home, everything in life, right? And I feel like I'm really good at kind of like, seeing that problem or whatever it is that just, a customer, or if it's something, and I'm pretty good at taking, I guess, bad news and just kind of move on and like take it and like, all right, here, this is what happened. I don't have a thing. It's more of a natural thing that happens with me. I let things go, right? But then also at the same time, I learn from them, and then just kind of move on and say, hey, this happened. I don't have anything. I can't do nothing about it. It just happened, right? And it's just got to go on. I'm the type of person like tries to like forget and forgive all the time, right? I mean, sometimes we get fights with our friends and with I don't know, with your spouse, with your kids, whatever it is, right? I have this thing of like, I don't like to keep it inside me. I just like, hey, you know what? Life is so short, and I just kind of move on. And especially with business too, like you cannot sit there and like, feel like bad about yourself because you didn't close this deal. I mean, trust me, starting a business, it's going to take a while. You're going to get a lot of no's before you got getting yes. You just got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and believing in yourself. Believe what I can do. Say, hey, I'm going to get this done. Nothing's going to stop me from getting this done. And if you get no's and no's and just keep going at it, and honestly, I would not feel bad about you, because honestly, it's like, later on in life, when you look back, you're like, man, all these no's that I got and all this stuff, it's just a learning thing. It's just, you're gonna learn from it, and you're gonna become stronger at it. You're gonna, and it's not just in sales, even in your private life too. It's just gonna make you stronger and move on with your life. So
awesome. Well, I'm going to do a quick switch over to talk about the sales center, because I think it's important to show how Cleveland State, since you're an alumni, what we're doing to help, serve our Cleveland market with well-trained sales professionals. So I'm just going to share my screen here and move on here. So we have the Bernie Marino Center for Sales Excellence. It's on the third floor of the College of Business. It was put together from a generous donation from Bernie Marino himself. And his goal for our center is to really ensure that all Cleveland State students have a fundamental understanding of sales. So there are two ways you can get the sales certificate. If you're an undergraduate student, there's only 4 classes that you need to take. This particular certificate, what I'll do is I will send out a follow-up email at the end of this event today with these attachments for you, so you can read all about it. It's pretty simple to get the sales certificate, but it's really a hands-on, experiential-based learning program. And Andrew might want to talk about that in a little minute. We also have what's called the professional selling minor. This is new this year, where those that really are looking to add sales as a part of their curriculum and get more in depth in sales, we do have a minor. So this is new, and it really will set you apart from other people out there in the field. So I'll send information on this as well. I want to thank everyone that took part in the poll. I do notice that there are approximately 8 companies, representatives in the audience today that are interested in hiring sales professionals, and about 6 are interested in hiring interns. I will send out my email address. My name is Dr. Tony Paletta. I will send out in the chat here to everyone my email address. If you have those positions, feel free to send them to me, and I will make sure you have access to our students, because that's our goal here. Is we want to make sure that our students have, you know, great opportunities while they're in school to learn while they're learning on the job, as well as opportunities, you know, to start in this field right outside of school, or even sometimes when they're in school. So that was quick. Andrew, do you have anything you want to add about the sales certificate, since you definitely are a graduate of it?
What I would say is the main thing that it did, it just allowed me to be able to talk to people. I mean, I can literally sit down and talk to anyone. I'm sure if I was, is it pronounced Hany? How do you?
Hany.
Hany.
Like
Okay, I want to make sure I was saying it right. I mean, I know if I sat down and had a cup of coffee with Hany and in person, I could just continue to talk to him. I would say that's also personally, I've always been very extroverted, but I think that's the one thing it'll do is in sales, sales is like kind of hard to teach, but it'll help you like be more comfortable talking in front of people. And you'll also pick up on different strategies. Like when it comes to closing someone, it definitely helps a lot. Some of the stuff I learned from Paul Gorton is honestly my favorite teacher or professor from there. He taught me so much. And I even, like, I'm sitting down in front of a client doing a presentation, and I can pick up on little things that I learned in class to help me, you know, be able to go through and close, overcome objections, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I can't speak any bad about the sales certificate. I think it's a good thing to have, especially even if you're just in business, if you're just going to do marketing, if you don't think you're going to do sales, I would say the sales certificate is going to help you even just land a job, because it's just going to be a differentiator for you in the marketplace, and you'll be able to talk.
You're selling yourself in an interview. I tell students that all the time. You're selling yourself to a potential mate. You're selling yourself to a mortgage broker. I mean, you're selling yourself constantly. Sales is fundamental. And that was Bernie Marino's message to us. And I completely agree. Thank you for that, Andrew, unsolicited. One last question for you, Hany, is from Yana again. She says, have you ever heard of Clubhouse? She says it's an invitation-only audio chat social networking app, and it's valued nearly $100 million. And people use it to talk to like-minded people about their skills and teach people valuable information.
I have not, honestly. I mean, when she said Clubhouse, I thought it was a club that I gotta go. But no, it's I have not. It's an app, Yana?
Yeah.
Okay.
She says it's an invitation-only audio chat.
How do I get invited? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to unmute her and she can talk about it. Go ahead.
So I personally have never been invited to it, so I don't know what it's like on the inside. I've heard from people that were actually part of it, and you have to know somebody on the inside to be able to get invited into it.
All right. Well, I'll definitely take a look and see.
And people also, I'm sorry. Also, people are very like they can't invite just anybody to it because their name gets put with that person on their profile. whoever you invite. So it's very secluded to a specific group of people, but people honestly love it, and it's something very new. So I'm sure it's going to expand, and more people are going to know about it soon enough.
Hmm. So, all right. So
Well,
you say,
thank you.
so you say I have a chance to join it, right?
Yeah. I want
One
to,
last thing. One last thing I just want to mention is, remember, guys, like, especially in sales and what you do today is like, all your friends, your employees are all ambassadors, of you, right? So whatever you're selling, so make sure, like, they know what you do and how and because, like, you never know, they might be out at a restaurant meeting somebody and so forth, and and no, it's all right. All right. I thought that was maybe the clubhouse, but no. So just making sure, like, if you're sitting with your friends, so let them know what you do. Like, keep it simple to the point, because you just never know. Because all your friends, all your employees, your whatever it is, your teachers and so forth, they're your ambassadors. They're gonna, if they know something, and they're gonna mention your name. So just kind of make sure you have that one line, kind of like that elevator, and they know exactly what you do.
I think that's so valuable. Well, I allowed everybody to unmute themselves so we can give you a round of applause and thank you for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time today. So if everyone can thank him for his time today, we appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. And as always, go Vikings, right?
Yeah, go Vikings.